Hello, everybody. Today we are going to be reviewing the movie Elvis, which just came out in theaters, I believe, 2 weeks ago, so we're almost going into the third week of it being out. But yeah, it kind of captured my attention. Now, there are a few Elvis songs that I do enjoy, and I think, honestly, after this movie, I'm probably going to go and listen to some more of his music because I had been listening to a little bit of it before I went to see the movie just to kind of get myself familiarized with some of his tracks a little bit better because I don't know, I was never really a big fan of his music or his style. I guess when I was younger, but now that I'm getting a little bit older, I'm kind of getting more into like the blues and certain stuff like that, along with my metal music as well as like classical stuff too. So yeah, I'm kind of broadening my horizons as far as music goes. So I do enjoy his music quite a bit more than I did when I was a teenager because I guess the teenage angst and heavy metal really was all part of, I guess, who I was back then, and the whole blues and music like that wasn't really my thing back then, I guess. That's really all I can say. But yeah, so this movie starred Tom Hanks, and boy, did he look a heck of a lot different in this movie, um, as Colonel Tom Parker, who we find out might have actually been a colonel or might not have been a colonel. He could have been lying about who he even was entirely, but he was Elvis's manager throughout most of the movie, even though Elvis did try to get rid of him a few times, but to no avail because, uh, sorry, did I say Tom Barker? I meant Tom Parker. Colonel Tom Parker. If I said Barker, my bad. But, yeah, so Elvis was never really able to get rid of him through the entire story because he was very manipulative. Oh my God. He was very manipulative. um, and he always made Elvis feel bad for him every time Elvis tried to get out of the situation. And who else did we have? I'm trying to remember the team that Elvis tried to leave him for. Who was the. Hmm, I'm trying to think of. Anyway, not entirely important, I guess, but that wasn't who played his mom. I'm trying to think of who played his mom and his dad. Now, his dad was played by Richard Roxburgh, played Vernon Presley, and his mother was played by. Good Lord, where is she? Really? How is she not, like, almost part of the main cast? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, what was his. I'm gonna have to go to some of the photos where he's with his mom. Do 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 do. Ah, okay, who was his mom played by? Oh, okay, geez, she is right there. Silly me. Anyway, so I guess. So I guess this Colonel guy was part of the. Not the fair, but the. What did he call it? Carnival. He was part of the carnival, and he always put on the shows, and had this Hank Snow guy with him, who was played by David Wenham. Was trying to remember who. I knew I recognized him from some movies, and he was also in Van Helsing and Lord of the Rings as well. And wow, okay, I've seen him in a few movies, I guess. So yeah, he was a very yeah, he's also a very good actor. I would say all of the people in this movie were very good. Okay, so Helen Thomas played Gladys, who was his mother, yes. And then his first girlfriend, I'm trying to remember who his first girlfriend was. He wasn't with her for very long because I guess when he was kind of reaching fame after the Colonel found him the first time, um, the colonel kind of realized he could mold him into whatever he wanted him to be, I guess. So the colonel definitely tries to take over, and obviously with the dance moves that Elvis did, it was controversial back in the 1950s and 1960s. But he was gone for quite a long period of time where he wasn't even singing. Uh, he actually served some time in the military, I believe, and then he met his wife Priscilla. Um, I believe his wife, yeah, that was his wife, Priscilla, right? Yeah, it has to be. There's got to be a photo of the two of them together here, too, I would think. Okay, yeah, so he meets his wife Priscilla over in Germany, but she was also American, and they immediately fell in love. And this was obviously uh, after he had broken up with his first girl, because I guess he said the publicity, uh, he would have to say that he didn't have a girlfriend anyway, so I guess it was just easier to say that he was going to move on. And then when he meets Priscilla, he falls in love with her, and yeah, they seem to be having quite a good life together, obviously. And then the colonel gets more involved and is basically just keeping Elvis drugged to perform. I'm not sure what they were using, but he brought a doctor along that was just keeping Elvis in tip-top shape so that he was able to perform every night. I'm not sure what they were doing to him, but they were basically killing him slowly. And then eventually Elvis finds out that this colonel might be lying about who he actually is, so things get even more interesting. And yeah, it's just, I really do like that they showed Elvis's childhood. He was obviously surrounded by music because he came from a very poor family. So back in those days, they ended up living in one of the black communities was where they ended up living. So he was introduced to the blues and I guess kind of soul music at a very young age because he was just in that environment, right? So even his clothing style and all the other stuff that he was into, he was surrounded by the black community, right? So he was influenced by that type of music. And one of his best friends was B.B. King, who was also a very big recording artist back in those days. And B.B. King was pretty truthful with him, at least in the movie. Now, I'm not really sure whether this would have happened in real life or not, but he basically told him that because Elvis was white, um, he would be able to record the songs and make money off of them, but they wouldn't really be as popular if they were sung by a black person. So that's unfortunate that is how that went down. But I mean, I basically without Elvis, if he hadn't of now I know there's some controversy around Elvis, obviously, but the way they told this story was kind of more from the perspective of his manager, but also it was Elvis's story as well in a kind of different sense. But Elvis, from the looks of it, really just did enjoy that music and wanted to get it out there. And he wasn't really thinking about stealing it from anybody, I don't think. But that's been a thing that Elvis stole the music and made it his own, and then it became popular. But I mean, I think a lot of these artists wouldn't have even been known if it wasn't for Elvis, probably because he was the one that put the song out there on the radio or wherever it needed to be heard, and then now we know about all these other artists that originally sang the song, and Elvis was the one that made it famous. So the Colonel really doesn't want to blame himself for Elvis's death, even though it was mainly his fault. And unfortunately, his mother passed away when he was still in basic training. I don't even think he made it over to Germany yet before he had yeah, it was Germany that he went to, right? Yeah, I don't even think he had made it overseas yet. I swear to God it was Germany that he was in. Now that I'm saying that, it doesn't even sound right, but I think it was. So anyway, his mother had passed away before he even made it overseas, and then he had to deal with that, and then his father kind of was easily getting manipulated by the colonel too, so that was unfortunate, and his father made the wrong decisions uh, based on his own son's health because he was just wanting the money, and obviously he was using money for himself, and the colonel was using money for himself, and they weren't budgeting around what Elvis needed because obviously he wore all the flashy costumes and stuff, and when the colonel goes to separate, they owed him like $8 million or something, and they didn't have any money left. So they needed to bring him back again, and that him and Priscilla get separated, and that really hurt him. So I think he just kind of put all his time back into his music and touring, and wasn't able to, yeah, didn't really care about what happened to him at that point anymore. And even though Priscilla tried to save him near the end of the movie, he just said, "I will always love you" to her when he was getting on the plane. And he unfortunately died at the age of 42. So yeah, he could have went and got help, I think, and he probably would have lived a lot longer if he had have actually been able to get away from the colonel and gone with this other team that cared about what he wanted to do, and yeah, what he wanted to do more as opposed to what the colonel wanted to do and what the colonel was trying to shape Elvis into. So it was kind of unfortunate, but also I guess we wouldn't have gotten some of the amazing music if it wasn't for the Colonel, but it was kind of a downfall for Elvis as well because the Colonel was telling him constantly what to do. And I think all the Colonel cared about was obviously money because he was a gambling addict. He had that problem, so he was using Elvis to feed his own gambling addiction and whatever else he might have been addicted to. And I think he was kind of seeing himself through Elvis. So even though Elvis was the one up on stage singing, the Colonel loved the fame that he was getting from Elvis just as much as Elvis loved the fame that he was getting from the crowd, right? So they both soaked that up in their own sort of way. It is funny though when he did see him at the carnival the first time and he realized that like Elvis was going to be his destiny when he saw him with his band, and then he separated from the band, and then when he went with this new team, they brought the band back in, and the Christmas specials was just supposed to be Christmas music, and it ended up just being all of Elvis's old songs back when he came back in 1968, I think was the year, because he was gone for I think almost a decade, if not a little over a decade, where he wasn't singing and he was just doing movies and acting and so on and so forth. And yeah, just to kind of keep, I guess, Elvis afloat, right? And then he didn't really want to do that anymore, but the Colonel wanted him to do it. And oh my God, it was just such a mess because all the Colonel cared about was making money off the merchandise and making money off Elvis to feed his addictions, and obviously his father had his own issues with addiction. I think maybe more alcohol, and then Elvis was obviously doing drugs and alcohol and whatever else they were pumping him with to keep him going on his 15-week tour, I think, where he was just going from city to city to city to city. So yeah, it was just like wild to think that they were putting him through that much because yeah, one human being can only do so much, right? But he did really have a taste and feel for music. So yeah, quite an incredible career, even though it only lasted, yeah, so long, right? I kind of would actually like to go see, I actually would like to see some of the movies that Elvis was in, so I'll have to look for them. But yeah, I will take a look and see if I can find any movies with Elvis in them just to see how good of an acting, or what his acting chops were actually like, because I think that would be kind of cool to see. Uh, what else can I really touch on? I think I pretty much covered the whole story. Oh, the only thing I would say about this movie that I wasn't really a huge fan of was the soundtrack. Now maybe I'll have to go back and listen to some of the songs, and I can kind of understand why some of the songs were picked. And I think maybe they were, I was told maybe they were trying to show how like influential Elvis was on the music of today. But I think he was more influential probably on the rock and roll side rather than the rap side, and there was a lot of rap songs in this. Now, I'm not saying, obviously, they had samples from some of the Elvis songs in these songs, so I guess it kind of makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. Some of it just didn't really seem to fit with his personality. And I will say, on behalf of Austin Butler, my God, that guy's a very talented musician and singer. And I have watched interviews in the past couple of days with him saying that he really, 2 years before the movie, when he, I guess, originally applied for the role or auditioned for the role and knew that he was going to get it, he just really honed himself in on that craft of becoming Elvis to really tell a story, and he did a fantastic job. So, yeah, crazy that he actually sounded like Elvis and looked like Elvis. And one of the cooler things at the end was when they did the Unchained melody, and they kind of mashed Austin Butler and the real Elvis singing together. So that was really cool. And oh my God, when they made him look like he was in his 40s, let me tell you, Austin Butler actually looked like he was, you know, like really, you could tell he was getting sick and not doing as well as he was when he was earlier in his career. And another interesting fact was at the beginning of the movie was that Elvis had a twin brother, actually, that was died at birth, and I'm going to look up his brother's name here because I took my dad and his fiance to go get, or to see the movie, and she had told me that right before they actually told us in the movie, so that was kind of funny. But yeah, I was learning quite a bit of facts about Elvis from this movie. Elvis brother. What's his brother's name? Oh, yes, his brother's name was Jesse. But yeah, his brother died at birth, unfortunately. So yeah, gotta say it wasn't a really easy life for Elvis, that's for sure. He definitely had it rough, and yeah, even though he had a great career, his home life wasn't the best, and he did try to warn his mother about the drinking, but she didn't listen, and then obviously she went off the deep end when he had to go into the military. So yeah, he definitely had it rough, and I guess him and Priscilla had there was quite a bit of an age difference. I didn't realize that. They kind of looked closer in age in the movie. But yeah, I guess we'll see here. Elvis. I just want to kind of know, oh my God, what the age difference was. I'm just kind of interested. Wow. Okay. So there was a 10-year difference between the two of them, and I guess originally when they met first, she was only 14 and he was 24. Holy crap. So yeah, I guess when he was 42, she would have been 32. Wow. Interesting. So I guess when she turned 16, her parents would have had to sign off for her to get married to Elvis. That's insane. Because I guess he said to her on the steps in that scene, "When I'm 50 and you're 40, we'll be together again. You'll see." So yeah, yeah, I didn't realize there was that big of an age difference between the two of them. I guess it wouldn't have been so controversial if he had met her when he was 30 and she was 20. That would have been a bit different. But yeah, the fact that she was that young when he originally met her is kind of crazy. I mean, I guess maybe that wasn't so frowned upon back in those times. I don't really know. It feels like it should have been, but crazy that that was the age gap between them, and that's how young she was when he met her. So Yeah, what else? What else can I say? Um, I don't really know where else was there anywhere else that Elvis traveled to? Like, did he actually get to go outside of the States? I kind of interested to see if he actually got to go outside of the States too, besides when he was in the military. Hmm. Did Elvis travel? I'm kind of interested just to see. Huh. I guess it says here throughout his incredible career, um, he only performed in three other cities outside of the U.S.: Toronto, Ottawa, and Vancouver during a brief tour in Canada in 1957. Huh. Yeah, real life Elvis never made it out of the United States, it says. So I guess, how many countries did Elvis go to? Hmm, interesting. So he never actually made it. So the big thing was that the Colonel never let him travel, but they did do a like huge live concert where they brought all of the countries to him where they could stream it or show it in every country. So he had, I don't know how many viewers watching him on TV perform in the States at the International, where he performed for so many years. Um, but it looks like he was only ever in Canada besides being in, yeah, besides being in the States. So, yeah, wow, that's crazy. Um, but yeah, how long have I been talking here? 22 minutes. So yeah, I think that's all I can really say about the movie. Incredible. It was a really incredible. It's a long movie, uh, 2 hours and 40 minutes, because it does tell quite a bit of the story. So if you're grabbing a popcorn and a drink, I would say definitely use the restroom before you go in to see this one, because yeah, you're not going to want to miss it, because every little bit of this story being told is important. And I gave this movie an 8 out of 10 because I thought that's what I thought of it, an 8 out of 10. It wasn't quite a 10 out of 10 movie for me, but it was a very incredible, well done, story told movie. And they just do a bang up job with these musical story movies for some reason. Because this one was good, and so was the Elton John movie, Rocket Man. Rocket Man was really good too. And I still have yet to see, crazy enough, as big of a Queen fan as I am, Bohemian Rhapsody. But I probably will watch that here soon now that I've seen these two movies, because I need to go back and really watch that one as well to see how good of a job the actor who played Freddie Mercury did. So I guess that's it for now. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.